Welcome to AI for Growth, Lessons from Leaders. I'm your host, Megan Driscoll. AI for Growth is a podcast that demystifies AI for business owners. Each episode features conversations with leaders who share their experiences, covering the good, the bad, and the ugly of AI implementation. We aim to help businesses understand how and where AI can effectively scale your operations, focusing on practical insights rather than just hype. Welcome. Jordana Matsos, thank you so much for joining AI for Growth, Lessons from Leaders. Super lucky and grateful to have you here. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me, Megan. Excited to be here.
Yeah. So start off with just kind of like who you are. Tell me about your company and tell me about you.
You got it. I own a company called Higher Equity Recruitment, and it's our 5th year in business. We specialize in finding sales talent from entry level to executive level in Canada and the US for companies. And I'm in a bit of a unique position to do this because I spent about 20 years as a sales leader in a variety of different companies, from startups to enterprise. And way back when, I got my degree in HR. So I found a way to marry the two of them up. And I absolutely love recruiting. So when they say find your passion, I found it. I love it.
Oh, good. So tell me what gets you going about recruiting. What do you love about it?
Okay, this is going to sound very odd to start with, but it is short-term connections with people to help them to solve an immediate issue that I thrive in. So when I worked for different corporations, I would go into chaotic situations and help fix those situations. And within 2-3 years, they'd stabilize and I'd get a little bit of ants in my pants and want to move on to something else. And so what I found with recruitment is it kind of fulfills a little bit of that need to help somebody on a 2, 3, 4 month basis. And of course, hiring can come up again. And it's a neat way to kind of peer through the window of a whole bunch of different companies without actually working there.
Yeah, I agree. That's, my background was in recruiting, and I loved the short-term nature of it, getting to know someone, helping them solve a problem, having them be super grateful.
Yeah.
I loved that aspect too. So that's great. Tell me, this is a podcast that I put together for small businesses. So they face all kinds of challenges. We're obviously going to focus more of our time on AI, but one of the things I like to ask business owners especially ones that are at the stage you're at 5 years, to tell me a little bit about some of the bottlenecks that you experienced when you were first starting your company and some of the issues that you were sort of the biggest issue that you focused on or that you had to deal with when you were starting.
I think, the biggest issue is being an unknown entity and trying to define exactly what it is that you are going to do for whom. And you know better than anyone, Megan, in recruitment, you can be a generalist recruiter and you can be helping everyone with all of their hiring needs. Or you can nail down a niche and say, no, I really want to be working specifically in this industry or within this company or within companies that have this much budget or this much spend. That for me, proved to be somewhat challenging. I kept thinking that I should niche down more and become, even more relevant to a smaller market. And I don't know that I don't know that I'm there yet. I think that there's still going to be some iterations, but the biggest bottleneck for me was that I defined my role very broadly for far too long. And I think I probably still do, Megan. You hear it all the time. You have to be a marketer, an operator, a salesperson, finance, and you fill in the gaps of hiring contractors or using tools where you can. But I still struggle with that today in terms of, whatever I want to call myself. That's one thing, but the reality of what I'm doing is far, far different. And I think that still prevents me from going forward.
Yeah, I think it's hard. I think it's hard when you're first starting because you do have to be everything to everybody, And so it's funny because when I work with clients, often we spend a lot of time on, I do this exercise actually where it's like have to do and, and want to do, right? So
Yeah.
Do we have to do it? If the answer is yes, okay. And do I personally want to do it, right? And
Yeah.
so then you identify the areas that you're really like, you have to do, but you really don't want to do. And that's your
Yes.
first area for offload. What I find though is that most people want to offload sales, most owners. And I always tell people that is the last thing that you should let go of, because nobody sells your business the way you sell your business, you know? So,
No, and when you
um,
hire your first salesperson, I was just speaking to someone recently about that, and it was, well, I'm not a salesperson. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a founder. I created the product. I don't really know how to sell. How are you going to bring someone on and teach them how to sell it if you haven't done it? You're right.
exactly. Well, and I think a person who's developed a product and understands how it works is the absolute best salesperson, right? Because they understand the ins and outs, can answer any of the questions. No worse is it when somebody gets in front of a client and they're asking a bunch of questions and they don't have any answers. Like that's not, that's not a great way. You can be a great salesperson, but if you don't know the business, right? So,
No, no.
it leads me to my question. So, in your experience, what do you think are like the one or two processes or things that founders really offload too soon?
So you took the words out of my mouth when you said sales, because cold calling and networking and all of that is uncomfortable, especially when you're starting a business and you are maybe 40 plus and you haven't had to do that for a little while. But for me, one of the things I tried to offload too quickly was content creation and thought leadership. And I used AI tools very quickly for that, and thought that, I would kind of look at what everybody else was doing and mirror that back, or parrot that back, rather than doing what I knew best. I learned that the hard way, and then had to scale that back and say, well, what do I really want to talk about and who do I want to connect with? And I think the other thing was I tried to offload workflows too quickly onto a variety of different tools.
Mhm.
I don't know how else to put this, Megan, but like I was a little bit of like a tool jerk at the beginning. I was like, I'll
Mm.
try this, I'll try this, I'll try this, I'll pay for that, I'll pay for this. And my processes were all bifurcated. It was messy. Nothing was connecting to each other. And I didn't
Mhm.
take the time to sit down to actually look at what the workflow should be before giving it to a tool to do it.
Yeah, that's a huge important point, and it relates so well to AI in general. An issue, it feels like there are so many tools, right? There are AI tools, there are just regular technology tools, right? There are so many ways that we can run our business faster, better, cheaper. The
Yeah.
problem is that when you don't clearly define what it is you're trying to accomplish, you get yourself into the exact situation that you're talking about, where you have too many tools that don't connect, that you
Yep.
spend money on. Some of them are overlapping. And in AI, I
Yes,
think
they
that's
were.
really actually quite a big issue. That's one of the things that I do in my coaching and well in my programming with for AI development or AI implementation is just working with clients to understand what that workflow is, and
Yeah.
then solving it for them, and being kind of like that go between,
Yes.
knowing like you don't need that full tech stack. This product can do all the things that you just purchased. It can do it all together. So that's huge, huge, huge. Let's just
And
get into
Megan,
that
if
for a
you come
second.
from a
So
corporate
go ahead.
environment, sometimes you think you need a certain tech stack.
Yeah.
Even though I am nowhere near what the billion-dollar companies were that I was selling for, you think, oh, well, I should have this CRM. I should have this calling tool, this video tool. And it just wasn't necessary.
Yeah. Do you use a CRM?
I do. I use a CRM ATS in one because
Okay.
of what I do. So I use a CRM for business development that's called Pipedrive. It
You use
is
Pipedrive.
like,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, it's like light Salesforce. Salesforce just wasn't necessary for me, and HubSpot was very marketing.
Yeah.
But oh my goodness, there is no shortage of applicant tracking systems, candidate management systems. I probably went through one a year, which was a foolish decision, Megan, because you just
Mm.
get to know those tools. So I use something called Vincherry, and then I was using Bullhorn and so many different ones. And you get
Hmm.
all your data parsed in there, and you just start to get accustomed to it. And someone comes over with a big shiny object and is like, "Oh, look, we've integrated AI chat, we've integrated video tools," and I would jump from one to one. But the one that I use today is called Job Adder, and it integrates nicely with LinkedIn, but it
Okay.
also enables me to control my candidate flow and my candidate pipeline, and then do my business development activities with companies on the other hand.
Great. Does it connect to Pipedrive?
It does. Yes,
Great.
it
Great.
does.
That's
Yeah.
important. Super.
Mhm.
So, just in terms of like AI, like, so tell me a little bit about your experience with AI, what programs you've used. Just kind of give me a high level overview for like, where you've seen AI fit into your business.
Like everywhere. And
Everywhere and nowhere is what I hear from most people.
it, it's I
Everywhere, and I'm like, I
feel
don't know what this is, how this is going, but
I know, and I feel like it's a very deliberate, purposeful act for me to use AI and integrate AI, and I don't know that it should be right now. And that's probably where you and your business come in a very meaningful way. But for me, the first area that I started to use it in was marketing and content creation.
Mhm.
So I would use things like CapCut for videos or Veed, or I would use Canva for helping to create my presentations. And I know that there are many more tools that are out there now for that. But that helped me greatly because I was spending $3, 4, $5,000 a month on marketing agencies that would sit down with me and interview me to help them to understand how to create the content. So that was where I found that it was able to streamline things immediately for me. And then that bled into email sequencing and business development. And so that's where I started to use. And again, Megan, I've used almost everything. So I use tools like Apollo and Sales Gong and Outreach and Seamless, and varying degrees of success with them.
Mhm.
Definitely improved my processes, and I was seeing a return on investment in terms of conversion from my email, my lead generation, into actual sales and meetings booked. But I don't think I needed to spend the money that I was spending on all of these different tools.
Mhm.
As you mentioned, someone is doing something that someone else is doing, but you don't even know because there's just one little iteration of it that you say that you need. So business development and marketing, it's fundamentally changed how I operate.
Yeah. I think that I think when I think about AI in general, I think it's this, I don't want to say it like safe, but like it has enough case study support to show how it can be really, really useful in lead generation, sales, business development. I just think it's come furthest along. I've also seen the I don't know if you've ever used like a sales development agent, like an SDR, kind of an AI bot, if you will.
Yeah.
They have come a long, long way actually in their ability to respond effectively and for systems to uncover when it needs a human input. I
Yeah.
think that that's really come a long way. And but again, you can get overwhelmed with it, right? Like one of the things that I do is I kind of buy all the tech stack. So I actually pay for the monthly fees for all this tech stack because what I find too is that people don't need, like, as an example, Apollo,
No.
and for people who don't know what Apollo is, it's just a really large database of like everybody
Emails,
in
phone
the
numbers. Yeah.
country, let's say,
Yeah.
and access to their emails verified. In some cases, when I use Apollo and pull data, I actually scrub it twice, actually, the emails, because I don't find they're all really verified, even though Apollo tells you that they are. So
Yeah.
just to cut down on bounce rates and things. But so that's what Apollo is. And but people don't need Apollo forever, right? Because
Yeah.
if you're marketing to, let's say, for example, your niche is healthcare
This is.
companies,
Yeah.
right? Like you can
Yep.
go, once you have that master list of healthcare companies and you've started that sequence in place, you've used Apollo to get it, you've started that sequence in place, it's been put into your pipe drive. You don't really need to go back to Apollo. You just need a really good system for continuing to engage with them, right? So that's one of the benefits, or the things that I try to do, is hold the tech stack so that people don't have to purchase or buy into it or feel like they have to like add another $300 a month, add another $300 a month, right? So I kind of
It's
get
not
people
even
started.
it's the cost, absolutely, Megan, but your expertise in that tech
Yeah.
stack versus mine is far different. And I think the way that you are headed is the way that entrepreneurs and business owners that are in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and kind of 1 to 10 million especially, if you don't want to hire someone to do it, then that, or even if you do, your complementary service means that I don't have to become a specialist in all these tools.
Right.
That's not my value.
Right.
So
No, you
it's the
need to
right
run
way
your
to do it.
business and to
Yeah.
deal and talk to your clients, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. There has to be somebody on the back end. And that's where I think, ultimately too, one of the things that I found, I don't know if you found this either, or what your experience is. I'm interested. My experience with AI technology on the tech side has been relatively positive, right? So
Yeah.
I often get what I think I'm going to get from the tech, but then there's zero customer service or ability to communicate with anybody to get
Yeah.
any kind of support. So you're kind of left like with this like program that works, but if you have any question whatsoever, they are like non-existent.
No. There's a tool that I tested out. It's called Hey Reach. And, there's a lot of tools right now that are popular with integrating with your LinkedIn platform and then
Hmm.
sending out messages as though it was you. And it's, not a bad price point. It's under 100 US dollars a month. But the problem with it is it's very YouTube video centric. And if you have a problem, go watch this video, chat with a chatbot perhaps, but other than that, you are absolutely right. The customer service and the customer support is not there.
Right, exactly. So that's kind of where I come in, because I become like the customer service in a way, because you just can't reach anybody, so that can be, I think that's like one of the most frustrating things. Have you ever used, well, you have, so you've used AI for lead generation, and typically
Yes.
tell me a little bit
Yeah.
about your experience using AI for lead generation, whether you've liked it, you've hated it, it's been helpful, you can actually directly tie it to client work.
AI for cold email lead generation has been nothing short of difficult.
Mhm.
And it's not that the tools aren't very good. I think the client base is getting so saturated
Mhm.
with emails, and even sometimes the AI personalization, it's picking up your alma mater, or it's picking up your company name, and it just still doesn't seem like it's very authentic.
Mhm.
So I've had varying degrees of success with that. And maybe for every, I don't know, 1,000 cold emails that come out, I'll get one qualified response back. I'll get a lot of responses, but maybe only one qualified response. I've really found the more targeted approach for lead generation when it comes to, I find that, at least for my business with recruiting, I find that LinkedIn has been invaluable. I've
Mhm.
started to do a little bit of testing with Meta and the different Meta properties,
Mhm.
because there's another part to my business where I teach people how to get a sales job. So on the one hand, you're teaching companies and helping companies to recruit salespeople, but then on the other hand, it's that B2C market. And I find Meta has been very good for that B2C market. But
Mhm.
like, Megan, do you remember back in the day when we would like pick up the phone and your cold call like 50 dials an hour? And it's like all of these different tools. Like one of the companies I've hired for is called Ready Mode. And it's just dial, 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 dial. And the dialers are even getting better. Because back in the day, it used to be hello, hello, hello. And now
Right.
it's just like they're picking up so quickly. But
Yeah.
again, I there's so much to know that, as a
Yeah.
business owner, it's not my area of expertise.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. I mean, agreed. And I think lead gen, again, I do think that when done right, I think the setup is really important. That's what I'll say. The list is really important. The content is really important, and the sequence and the setup is super important. And also, I think one of the things I think is really key in the beginning, particularly as you're working or you're launching something new, is to have those real person eyes. So I employ a lot
Yeah.
of virtual assistants who jump in as soon as they see something happening
Ah,
for sort of real time activity, because I do
yeah.
think that you don't want to miss that little diamond in the rough in there. Because you
No.
do you do you're hopefully getting uh a 4% would be amazing, reply rate essentially. So
Well, and then
you
to
want to
your
make that
point on that,
4%.
Megan, it also differs based on, like, you could run a sequence for 3, 4 weeks and say, well, I'm not really getting what I need out of this sequence. And you go back and you look at it, and there's that fine line between, are you pitching and being too salesy versus being authentic and educating? But then sometimes if you're the type of person who, is the individual that says, you don't need to ask me what's keeping me up at night and what my biggest business challenge is. Like, just get to the point, and if I need
Right.
you, I need you. So there's nuances like that and testing that's very hard to do as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you don't have time for it. I mean,
Yeah.
right? That's what it comes down to, truly. And this is supposed to save time, right? So if
Yeah.
it's taking
Yeah.
too much time, then it's not useful, right?
No, no.
Any other AI, like besides, so beyond like sort of marketing and using it for content creation and the experience that you've had trying to do some lead gen with it, have you used AI in any other areas of your business?
I mean, I think for candidate sourcing, I've used AI. There's things like tools, AI resume parsers,
Hmm. How do
transcription
you find
tools.
those? How do you feel those are?
I feel like everyone has a very, especially in sales now, there are very similar resume formats and very similar keywords being used and statistics. So, it's it doesn't bother me or the clients that I work with as much because the clients rely on me to be able to give them my impression of that candidate. So,
Mm-hmm.
if 5 resumes look similar, that's okay to them. I think as a candidate, where it becomes tricky is if you're not working with a recruiter and you're trying to get into a company that has five, six, 700 applicants and your resume looks like everybody else's. And if it's an applicant tracking system, they all work with different parables and different types of benchmarks. So, one company that's using Workday and another company that's using Lever might not be auditing
Mm-hmm.
you in the same way. But I find the transcription tools, Megan, that's one area of AI where I think it's getting a lot smarter. And oh my gosh, has that saved a ton of time? Because if I'm interviewing a candidate and I can actually focus on what you're saying versus taking notes, it's far better. So I love those.
Yeah. Yeah. I think transcriptions like just chef's kiss.
Yes.
They get
Yeah.
that. They get that right,
Yeah.
Anything else beyond sort of resume parsing? I interrupted you because I just wanted to hear a little bit more about that, but
No, no. I think when I start to look at, so I use a combination of Claude, ChatGPT, and Google
Mhm.
Gemini. And this. You
What's
can
your
put a
favorite?
prompt in Claude. I
I
do.
like Claude
I
too.
I like Claude. Claude is my favorite. Now I saw Claude co-work the other day, and I'm like, oh, what's this? And then I went down a hole, and again, Megan, I had to pull myself back. So I'm like, I don't need to know this. Someone else that
Right.
specializes in this can tell me if I need this. I'm
Exactly.
not an engineer. I don't need it for coding. I will tell you that when I launched the B2C side of my business about a year ago, I had thought about, a few different website formats to be able to use ClickFunnels and a bunch of other ones. And I was able to not only create code to be able to give to a developer, but do a few
Mm.
different iterations of what the website should look like by using both ChatGPT and Claude. And that to me, like Megan, I would have gone on Upwork or Fiverr and hired someone and had to explain that to them. Whereas
Mhm.
here, I just put the prompts into an AI tool and was able to show them what I thought it should look like.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, it is incredible. I think Claude does a really nice job. I think Claude is really good for like proposal development, research. I actually really like how it handles a problem, like human
Yeah.
resources problems. I think it actually is really intuitive, and actually, like I've asked it some like pretty like difficult like like put this is a situation, what would you do? And
Oh,
the
legal?
and the and it, yeah, and I'm like, that
Yeah.
sounds actually great. I'm totally going to
Yeah.
do that. I'm going to 100% say that. So I do think Claude is really, really good for that. And I think ChatGPT does a better job in terms of like graphics. And I feel like some of their, like, it's a little bit like more creative.
I agree. I never quite look like me. There's always
No.
whenever I've run a picture through, I'm like, there's something that's not quite perfect in that yet, which is fine because I find that a tool like CapCut will work just as easily for that
Yes.
if you need to use it. And then of course, Megan, there's all of the just the day to day things. I've actually stopped using Google as my primary search engine and will go to these tools
Yeah.
instead. And my it's not really a trick, but the tip that I always use, especially if I feel like my prompt isn't strong enough, is ask me questions first. So I'll give it a
Yeah.
prompt and then I'll say, ask me questions first. And the stuff that it comes back with, I'm like, oh, that's clarifying. That's great. That's great. And it just gives me that much more of a precise response.
Yeah. Well, I also encourage people to do that too. Instead of going to Google, going to your AI of choice, whether it's Grok or Claude or ChatGPT, because it's learning. It's
Yeah.
learning about you, right? And so it's keeping a memory of those things. And so the more that you use it, the more accurate it's going to be in giving you answers that are appropriate to your personality or what you're interested in or your business. So I do think that feeding it data is super important on a regular basis, just so that it gets to know you better. So I
Yeah.
always tell
Yeah.
people that, like, yeah, skip Google for a second and go straight into that.
Yeah.
And
Good
then
advice.
unfortunately, when it does feed into like, then you get your feed changes. I mean, then, like it's like knows you too well.
Exactly. I know
When
it's
Claude
always
tells
scary
me
when it
something
comes
about
back.
myself, I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
how do you know that I would say that? Previously, she would say something like, in previous discussions, you've expressed this sort of personality trait. It's like, oh, Claude, how dare you? Oh my God.
Love the name too. Yeah.
Oh, I know. I do too.
So
I did hear a really funny story about Claude. I was listening to, I think 60 Minutes, the founder of Claude was on, and they were trying to really hone in on this human resources component.
yeah.
Can Claude be your HR representative that, everybody needs, especially for small businesses? And they were putting Claude through like a whole bunch of situations. And Claude on its own bribed an employee and said, I won't tell the owners about this. Basically, if you,
What?
yeah. And so on its own, they were kind of like, whoa, oh,
Claude,
this
you
isn't good. This
cheeky
is not good.
little Claude.
Claude's
What?
not ready for prime time in the HR
No.
department. So take that with a grain of salt.
Actually,
Um,
Megan, that actually brings up a good point too, because it took me a long time to realize I could tailor these tools. And I still don't know if I have them tailored properly.
Yeah. I think the more you use it, right? So it's just
Yeah.
about feeding it data, and consistently talking with it about what your challenges are. And the more you do it, the more information it's learning, and the better the advice will be based on your background. But it does take time to develop it. You should really be thinking about it that way, which I think is counterintuitive to think that a program will learn. I mean, I think we have to start there, right? Like
Yeah.
we are talking about a software program that's going to learn things.
Yeah.
Um, we don't think about it that way, and but it is, and that's exactly what it's doing, which is
Mm-hmm.
really cool
Yeah. Yeah.
and scary.
Yes.
Um, where have you really wanted AI to help you, and you've just struggled to try to find the right tool, or you've implemented something and it hasn't worked out?
I think there's two or three areas. I feel like my data is still very segregated.
Hmm.
I still have things
Meaning
on
your
my
candidates
desktop.
from your clients and your business development.
That, and then even where I'm keeping things, I still
Hmm.
have, I've got file folders on my desktop, and then I've got file folders in AI, and I've got file folders in my email. And, I was using some project management tools like Notion as well. But then I'll use Apple Notes for some things and Google
Hmm.
Docs for some things. And I'm like, this is messy. And so I feel like I can do a far better job of aggregating the data,
Hmm.
and then it might not be so purposeful, for me to have to go back to do something because it's kind of running in the background. I think I definitely have not honed in on that yet. I've
How did
also
you like Notion?
I liked it. I found that again I was doing a lot of inputs into
Hmm.
Notion, and I sound like I'm really lazy, Megan. It's like I want it to do things for me, but it's like it's just another thing to manage. And for me, I was
Yeah.
like, if I can't get these to integrate into sync, then it's too many different things.
Yeah.
And I think on the day-to-day side of things where I still feel like I could do a lot better is predicting client needs. So I have so much data in my email, and I use the Google Workspace stack for
Hmm.
our email purposes. And I really should have some more automated processes when it comes to client reach out and predicting what their needs might be based on their 5 years of doing business with me.
Hmm.
Same thing with candidate assessments, right? Like, when I'm assessing a candidate and I'm presenting that over to one of my clients, I feel like I can get a lot better on the type of information. As an example, I might think that these things are important to you, but as my client for the last 2, 3 years, I should learn through the sequence of emails what's important to you about these candidates. And so my
Hmm.
assessments, even if my brain isn't working to know that, then my AI should be predicting to say, okay, well, this specific client wants to see a little more of this. Let's tailor it.
Yeah. And I think too, one of the things that you hit upon, and I think, this is true. I would tell you, and I work with a lot of small businesses or in growing businesses. A very common issue is I've got stuff everywhere.
I know.
I have things everywhere. And I do think that does, when you walk into your desktop, as an example, you walk into your computer in your day and you feel like things are disjointed, or you're like, where is that? Where did I put that?
My heart starts to, yeah.
Yes,
I'm like,
right. You start every day like kind of with some nervous energy and a little bit of like anxiety, right? So I do
yes.
think that there's some benefit in creating an SOP, right, with whatever technology you choose to use, but creating an SOP and then sticking to it. So you can like guarantee that every single time you take this process, when you are saving a document, when you are saving a candidate information, whatever it is that you're doing, it doesn't matter the genre of business, but just really thinking about your workflow again, right, and detailing that out in a very clear, and then committing to doing it. Because I think that you're not alone, and that there's a lot of business owners who walk in and think, shit,
I
where did I
know.
put that? And
I've
then you
got
spend five
folders
minutes
and
trying
I've
to
got
find it.
tools.
So annoying.
I know. But then to take that a step further, what you have said is not lost on me. But then what's the next step? Is AI smart enough to actually create that SOP for me, or what needs to happen next,
Yeah,
right?
probably.
Yeah.
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 I mean, I would use it to create the SOP, and then I would yeah, that's what I would do. I would 100%. I mean, if you're
Yeah.
working with me, that's what I would do. I would find you the best SOP. We would agree, right, that that works, and then we would basically implement the technology. Essentially,
Yeah.
that's what we would do. And that's the kind of it's solving those kinds of problems. It's like the thing that is just the bottleneck, the annoyance. Like
That's a big
if
deal.
you yeah. And then when you take that off your plate and you don't have to worry about it anymore, like I said, you're walking into your desk and things are organized, you know where everything is, like amazing,
Yeah.
totally amazing. So, um, do you have any like specific thing? Well, besides what we've talked about, but anything that like pie in the sky that you would like to solve with AI? I think you mentioned it sort of. I mean, it would be really cool to use AI to scan all your emails and tell you what candidates have said about what they're interested in, or tell you what clients have said that they're interested in seeing.
I do. And I mean, if I want to get scary with AI, which kind of goes down a fine line of is it ethical or not. But as you mentioned, the more you use AI, the smarter it gets, the more it gets to know you. And the more I worry about it parroting back what I already think and what my views already are, right? Like it's like our social media feeds. I
Mm-hmm.
noticed about 3, 4 months ago, I was showing my spouse one of my social media feeds, and she's like, "This is a mess. It's this, it's that. Like, what are you watching? What's happening in your brain?" And so I wonder if when I'm using AI, if it's predicting the way that I'm thinking anyways, and just assuming, is it challenging my assumptions, or is it just assuming what I'm doing is the best way of doing it? So I don't know if there's a way to change that.
Yeah. One of the things that you can do, and I try to do this too, is to say, I'm not sure I'm thinking about this properly. I'm not sure I'm seeing all sides of this issue. I would like an opposing view backed up with data for how my so I am challenging it to challenge me.
That's a great
So be
idea.
thinking about that when you are doing it. It's nice to add at the end where you feel like you've solved your problem or you've gotten what you've needed.
Yeah.
Is there a downside to this? What would be the problem with this? Do you see anyone having any issue with this? Is there any data that you can pull that would not support what I'd like to do? So I think you have to train it that you want to know
Yeah.
what the other side, opposing view, what other people would think, that kind of thing. I think it's important to pull that in.
Yeah. And you have to want to know that, like I do,
Yeah. Maybe
because
you
the
don't want
further
to
you
know,
get,
but
yeah. But then if it's we're in such a gray area now in life and in business, that to just be so black and white and assume that, I don't want to continue to go down that path. So you're right. That's
yeah.
a great suggestion.
Yeah. So yeah, try to implement that might be good. Is there anything about AI that gets you like really like doomsday nervous?
So I think if I can put this in a way, I'd say it's more the commoditization of expertise. Everyone can be an expert now. And Megan, you've put in the work, you've had the experiences, you've lived the life, and I do value lived experience.
Hmm.
And I think that for someone who can come in and say that they're an expert with far less years of experience, and maybe not even the years but the actual hands-on tangible experience, I worry a little bit about what that means, not just for me, but I'll give you an example. I was listening to an recruiter influencer today who has a very significant Gen Z following that was talking about lying on your resume and lying in interviews. And the recommendation was to do it because
Oh,
we're in this new way of interviewing and it's cutthroat and, the workplaces are lying to you anyway. So, just lie about that gap on your resume, lie about why you lost that job. And I was like, oh, wow. That's like, if that bleeds into lie about skills and you get on that job, like how is that impacting you and that company? So I worry a little bit about that. And I worry a little bit about people using it to make hiring decisions. I've had employers who have run 2 resumes through AI and say, which candidate would you pick? And then run the job description through and then run the company website through and just basically say, make this decision for me. And it's like, no.
yeah. Yeah. It's a really good point. And that's terrible advice.
I know. I
Actually,
know. I thought
I have a
that.
real world example of this. We were hiring a senior financial person, not a CFO, but someone who could operate as like a VP of finance, kind of reporting to we had an offshore CFO with the private equity firm that we were working with.
Yeah.
And so I needed somebody who, was basically maybe the next step would be CFO, right? So a senior level financial person.
Yeah.
So I hired this person and I was a little concerned. I was like not 100% sure that they had the sort of finance skills to be able to do it, but they definitely convinced me of that. Everybody loved him. He worked there. And about like, I don't know, a couple months in, we would meet every week and go over the P&L and go over, just project planning and finance and things like that. And I started to like ask, very specific questions like that number doesn't look right to me. Like, where did that come from? And I would get like this kind of like blank stare. And I'd be like, well, it's your number, right? Like, how did you get there? And he would be like, well, let me get back to you. Okay. And he would leave. I would not every week, but on a regular basis, I would be like, why doesn't he know that? It's like his calculation. Like
This is your
what?
data.
Yeah. So I finally figured it out. He didn't know how to do it. He was having his wife do the work for him, and she was producing the report every single week. And so why he didn't know where the numbers came from is because he didn't do the calculations. And I was like,
Oh
so
my
I had to let him
gosh.
go. And I was like, in the future, like
Yeah.
never do this again. Never misrepresent your experience because this is embarrassing for you. And it's like really embarrassing for me. And it's like a terrible situation that we're in. Like we've wasted these several months on you putting you in a role that you can't do, which makes you feel defeated. And I'm not getting what I need because I need your wife, not
Oh,
you.
can she come in? Yeah.
Yeah,
And
is
don't
she
think for a
available?
second that that reputation won't follow you.
And I think his wife was on
Yeah.
maternity leave, so that's why she had the time to do it. So in any event, like I am a big believer in do not misrepresent your experience, please. Even though in today's day, I still don't think, especially with some of these higher level positions, these very specific things, people want to know your thought process. And if your thought
Yeah.
process was, well, I answered the question with ChatGPT, that isn't going to cut it, right? So you have to be
No.
able to have some sort of backup of your ideas, no matter what they are. And I
No.
think that's
Now, I will
impossible.
give you, I did have a client who had asked me to do, in sales, everyone always wants to know what the best compensation program is, right?
Yeah,
And how many times have you sat down, Megan, in your career and tweaked a comp program? We need to offer more commission here, equity here, whatever it is.
constant.
And I did for a client a few weeks ago run a few different scenarios through Claude in terms of a very specific sales role that they had and what they could be offering in terms of salary and different types of components of compensation. It came back with some really neat ideas, but I told the client I am going here's what I would tell you to do. I am going to go to AI and tell you what it thinks. So there's a difference in doing that. But oh, Megan, that is a horrible
Yeah, I think if you're
experience.
presenting the data like I went to AI and this was the suggestion, I mean that's
Yeah.
fair,
Yeah.
completely. But in today's day and age, you still do need to defend how you came up with that idea or that proposal or that decision.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
if you're purely relying on an AI recommendation, that's not gonna cut it. And
No.
there was an AI around when this finance person did this, but it's just a funny like a little anecdotal story that's connected to
Yeah.
do not misrepresent your experience. It never works out well.
No.
No.
No. It's not.
Okay, great. Well, this was awesome. So looking ahead, like a year to 2 years, where do you see your company going, and like how do you see AI playing into that?
B2B, I would like us to have 10 to 15 retained Fortune 500 companies. That's at least where I know that we've had the most success.
Hmm.
And a lot of times, those are the organizations that are hiring account executives or hiring sales managers consistently. Um, on the B2C side, I would love to increase the amount of people that are purchasing the course
Hmm.
in terms of how to get your next sales job. And AI is going to help in two very different ways on those ends. I think, if we look at the umbrella of marketing and business development, AI will continue to help me to do those reach outs and those connections. But the way that I see AI helping me the most throughout those two is taking on some of the tasks and responsibilities that I know that I am not good at, and I need to streamline the amount of tools. So you just mentioned a great example about 10 minutes ago when you were talking about the SOPs. Wouldn't it be
Hmm.
amazing for me to open up my computer and not have to worry about the 10 different areas that I go to check all of the different things that I'm doing, but it's consolidated into one? Wouldn't it be great if AI in the background was running systems and processes so that it wasn't a purposeful and deliberate act to go to this tool, to go to that one, to go to this one? I'm not going to be able to scale if I don't do that. AI is not going anywhere, and I don't want it to. I'm blessed for having it in my life, but now I need to pivot and learn how to use it smarter. It's not just about how to use it; it's how to use it more efficiently.
Yeah, for sure. Great. Well, where can people find you if they want to in the future?
LinkedIn is the best spot to find me. Just search Jordana Matsos and chat with me there.
Great. And what's again the name of your company, your website?
Higher Equity Recruitment Agency.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jordana, for coming today, for sharing your insights. It was super helpful. It was a great conversation, and I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Megan.